Hey everyone, today we're diving into the worst moments of Lois Griffin that you won't believe. Make sure to watch till the end and hit that subscribe button to support the channel. Let's get started. Cheated on Peter in Season 5, Episode 13. Alright, listen up. In Bill and Peter's bogus journey, things go off the rails faster than a roller coaster in a tornado. Peter Griffin, the lovable knucklehead that he is, decides to buddy up with former President Bill Clinton.
Alright girls, I've turned off the AC. First one to have a bead of neck sweat reach their butt crack wins.
And let me tell you, Bill Clinton is not the kind of guy you want to take life advice from.
I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world, wrapped in plastic. It's fantastic. Come on, Barbie, let's go party. Yeah.
This guy starts teaching Peter how to relive his glory days, and it gets out of hand real quick. We're talking full-on reckless shenanigans that make a frat party look like a library.
Who's there?
Oh crap, go, 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 go!
Doggone it. If he wanted a pig, why didn't he just take my wife?
So Lois, being the responsible adult, decides to step in and confront Clinton about the mayhem. And guess what? Things spiral even further, and Lois ends up in bed with Clinton. Yep, you heard that right. Lois, who's supposed to be Peter's rock, betrays him in the worst way possible.
You certainly are very persuasive.
So I've been told. Hey, you up for a little NAFTA?
What's that?
Another afternoon fucking that ass.
Naturally, Peter is crushed. I mean, this is the kind of blow that could knock a guy off his feet and into a pit of despair. Their marriage? It's on life support. Lois is drowning in guilt and tries to make amends by offering Peter a hall pass. Yep, she suggests that Peter sleep with someone else.
The way I figure it, the only way to even things out between us is if you have sex with someone else too.
And who does he pick? Lois's own mother. Talk about rubbing salt in the wound.
Anybody I want?
Anybody. Don't be afraid to tell me.
Babs.
But here's where it gets real. Peter can't go through with it. Infidelity is a massive deal, and he knows it. He might be a bumbling idiot at times, but he's got a conscience. Lois is absolutely lucky that Peter found it in himself to forgive her. I mean, it's a testament to how messed up things can get and how much Peter still cares.
I don't want to do anything to hurt you.
Oh, Peter!
So yeah, their marriage is rocky, but it's still hanging on by a thread, and Peter's ability to forgive is honestly the only thing keeping it from completely falling apart. It's also funny and nasty because in the end, Peter slept with Bill Clinton. Hand off to Bill Clinton, a mastermind who pulling all the strings.
Hey, listen, Bill, you and I need to have a talk. Boy, you are good. You are really good.
Having sex with Meg's boyfriend in Season 8, Episode 13. Oh, Lois? Seriously? It's like she has a built-in cheat-o-meter or something. Despite her previous scandalous escapade, she's at it again in that painful Season 8 episode, Go Stewie Go! This time, she's got the hots for Meg's so-called normal boyfriend, Anthony.
He seems to be completely normal.
Because clearly Peter's relentless age jokes have sent her spiraling into a full-blown crisis, and she decides the solution is to swoop in on Anthony. Real mature.
Oh my god, that's kinda hot. I bet you taste like Mountain Dew and Starburst.
So what does Lois do? She throws all caution to the wind and starts making out with Anthony. Yep, right there. And who's there to catch them in the act? Meg. Perfect timing, huh? Not only does Lois betray her husband yet again, but she also manages to completely ruin her relationship with Meg. Genius move, really.
Mom, I forgot my keys. Do you know where?
Rape?
Once the whole disastrous scene plays out, Lois realizes she's messed up royally and goes scrambling to apologize to Meg. And of course, Peter has to jump in with his own half-hearted apology for being a jerk. What a spectacularly predictable mess. It's like watching a car crash in slow motion, painfully obvious, and you just can't look away. Gambling's Loss in Season 1, Episode 6. Oh, the sun also draws. What a gem from the first season. The Griffins decide to take a trip to get Chris reinstated in the Youth Scouts and, surprise, they have to stop at a Native American casino because obviously a random detour is exactly what they needed. Enter Lois, who naturally can't resist the allure of the slots and ends up deep into a gambling addiction.
I didn't know you know how to play poker, Lois.
Yeah.
Well, how you doing?
Yeah.
That's good, honey. Let's go.
Yeah.
So deep, in fact, that she loses the family car and leaves them all stuck at the casino. Brilliant move, Lois.
Jeez, I could swear I parked here.
Yeah, you did. But here's the really silly thing, Peter. I sort of bet our car.
And how do they get out of this mess? Peter, in a stroke of utter genius, decides to pretend he's Native American. Somehow, this ridiculous lie actually works, but let's be real, none of this would have happened if Lois had just kept her hands off the slots. Classic Lois, turning a simple trip into a hot mess. Kleptomaniac in Season 4, Episode 9. Ah, darling, let me regale you with a tale of deception and chaos. Picture this. Our beloved Lois, amidst her grocery expedition, finds herself with purse strings tighter than a clamshell. What's a desperate soul to do? Ah, but of course, she devises a cunning ruse to sneak that ham into her bag, pretending to return it. How thrillingly wicked. Once the taste of thievery is upon her, she can't resist its intoxicating allure. Before long, she's not just pilfering food, oh no, she's absconding with everything from mundane groceries to an exquisite Matisse painting.
Oh my God, that was such a rush. I'm alive!
Such audacity, wouldn't you agree? Brian, ever the meddler, catches her in the act as she tries to steal from an auto parts store.
Oh, put it back.
He warns her that crime isn't the answer, but instead of heeding his advice, she decides to double down on her nefarious deeds. But the grand finale of her escapade, caught red-handed by Joe.
Sorry, Lois. Regulations. I can't give you any special treatment.
It's okay, Joe. I understand.
Shut up, maggot!
She's carted off to court, where she faces the wrath of a judge whom she, in her infinite greed, has wronged by snatching his gavel. Oh, how deliciously ironic. She's sentenced to 3 years in the dark depths of prison.
I'm Lois.
I'm Fisty. That's Stabby and that's Balls. Pull up a chair, we're playing cards.
Oh, okay. So are those biblical names?
Yeah, Fisty is.
Now, as her absence plunges the Griffin household into delightful chaos, they decide they must rescue her. Enter Peter with a plan most outrageous. He stuffs Lois into his mouth and slithers his way to freedom.
Bye-bye. Take care now. Have a nice day.
The family then flees to Quahog's Asian town, a beguiling mix of Chinatown and Japantown, to start anew. Oh, but the drama doesn't end there. Chris takes on the role of a rickshaw driver. Stewie finds himself in a sweatshop, only to be replaced by a newborn after a sewing mishap, and Peter attempts sumo wrestling, until Joe spots him on the television. The chase through the sewers is a spectacle of its own, but in a twist of fate, Lois sacrifices herself to save Joe from a perilous fall.
Joe, you're too heavy. I can't hang on.
Pretend I'm your child, Lois! Nutmeg, nutmeg!
My favorite is when Lois cannot pull Joe, because Joe is too heavy, of course. Joe begged Lois pretending he is her child, and suddenly Meg lose her grips. You get it, not Meg, my girl can't even rest like a minute. Grateful, Joe rescinds her sentence, and the Griffins, once more, reclaim their chaotic lives. Ah, what a wonderfully tangled web they wove, don't you think? Bullying her own daughter in Season 10, Episode 2. Ah, come closer, my lovelies, and let me tell you a tale of family folly and delightful drama. Meg Griffin, that poor, pitiful girl, has always been the family's punchline, their favorite target for ridicule. Peter's been on a non-stop roast, but let's not overlook Lois, who's taken a jab or two at our unfortunate Meg as well.
Bang, bang! Hey, me too! Bang!
Oh, no one wants to get finger banged by you, Meg.
Why don't you just go do that to yourself, Meg?
Now, in the episode Seahorse Seashell Party, our beleaguered Meg finally decides she's had enough of being everyone's punchline. With a sassy flair and a mighty dose of courage, she calls out Lois for being a dreadful role model and a terrible mother.
Okay, I'm not the perfect mother. Who is?
Oh, not only are you not the perfect mother, you're the furthest thing from.
Oh, the audacity! Lois is so shaken by Meg's brave confrontation that she practically has an epiphany right there. She realizes, with a mix of horror and guilt, that she's been a pretty awful mom.
You're right, I'm a terrible mother. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Meg. Can you ever forgive me? Oh, God.
Isn't it just rich? Lois, who's been so caught up in her own world, suddenly gets a crash course in parenting 101 from her own daughter. And so, in the midst of this family circus, Lois decides to make amends and actually try to be a decent mother. Ah, the irony. Nothing like a good old family showdown to stir things up and make everyone reevaluate their so-called parenting skills. How delightfully entertaining. Locking Peter and his friends in Season 14, Episode 15.
Did she just lock us in here?
It looks like it.
Guys, spin me back. I didn't see what happened.
Ah, the trials of being bound to Peter Griffin, a man whose life seems perpetually steeped in chaos and mischief. One would imagine that being married to such a whirlwind of disorder must be nothing short of exhausting, yet locking him away might not be the most prudent course of action. In the episode A Lot Going On Upstairs from Season 14, Peter in his infinite wisdom transforms the attic into his personal Pete Pad, a sanctuary for his wild escapades and neglectful behavior.
I don't understand. What are you gonna do up here?
Mostly just burn the roof of my mouth on unevenly heated microwave burritos. Now I'm busy, so close the floor and get out of here.
As he immerses himself in reckless games with his cronies, the household suffers under the weight of his irresponsibility. Lois, in a fit of frustration, resorts to sealing Peter and his friends within the attic with a drill, trapping them in a stifling, unventilated prison.
Lois, let us out of here!
No way! You like it so much? Then you can rot up there with your buddies.
Lois, so help me God, if you don't let us out right this second, I'm gonna take a dump on your wedding dress.
Ah, but Peter, ever the schemer, leverages his confinement to blackmail Lois, threatening to desecrate her wedding dress, a truly dastardly move. Faced with this most odious threat, Lois is compelled to release him and his companions.
You were too late. We pooed on the gown.
Ripped a big hole in your ceiling.
In the end, there is a sliver of acknowledgement from Lois that perhaps both she and Peter have ventured too far in their dramatic dance. How delightfully poetic that even amidst their turmoil, a glimmer of self-awareness emerges. Traumatized Chris in Season 16, Episode 10.
Who's Arthur Valentine?
Only the most magical man ever, and he comes every Valentine's Day on a purple Vespa.
Ah, what a deliciously wicked tale we have here. After putting their son through the ghastly charade of killing off the imaginary Arthur Valentine, a heartless ploy designed to ease his suffering on Valentine's Day.
Arthur! Oh my God, he's dead! He's dead!
Chris is left in a state of utter catatonia. As Lois tends to her traumatized offspring, she seizes the opportunity to unburden herself of a particularly dark secret. In a moment dripping with malevolence, Lois reveals to Chris that she has, in fact, been responsible for the death of a pedestrian.
I've never told anyone this, but I killed a jaywalker in 2002. She looked old, but she was only 51. I mean, back then, that was old to me.
How utterly chilling. She recounts that the jaywalker seemed elderly at the time, as if this trivial detail somehow made the loss of life less significant. It's almost as if she's casually explaining a trivial inconvenience rather than a grave moral transgression. At least in this episode, we happen to see Brian finally dating with his kind, another female dog, of course. And isn't it just fitting that Lois was the one behind the wheel when she and Peter decided to dispatch their fabricated Arthur? It's as though her past misdeeds have preordained her role in this latest act of cruelty. Lois' list of sins is long and varied, but now, how gloriously macabre, we can add the cold-blooded act of murder to her resume. How delightfully fitting for a character whose every action seems to dance on the edge of the abyss. Her crimes with the meth lab in Season 11, Episode 20. How the Griffin's tale twists into a lamentable tragedy with Lois Griffin at its wretched core. It begins with Tom Tucker and Joyce Kinney's dismal broadcast about the rising crime in Quahog, setting the stage for calamity. Poor Glenn Quagmire falls victim to a mugger who's not even familiar with Truman Capote, a minor tragedy among the unfolding chaos.
Give me all your money. Okay. You have a white wallet? Yeah, just like Truman Capote. Who's Truman Capote? What a surprise! The muggers never heard of Truman Capote. There's a library card in there. Use it!
At Ocean World, the seal Bojangles disrupts the place, threatening his trainer for fish and forcing her into an absurd belly-rubbing ordeal. And as if that weren't enough, a newborn baby, inexplicably armed with a gun, turns the hospital into a wild shooting gallery. Yet, the true disaster unfolds with Lois. After the Griffin's home is robbed, Peter impulsively buys a farm and sells their house on Craigslist. Despite Brian's understandable fears that they're being taken to a farm to be euthanized, the family moves.
To go to the nice farm?
No! No! You'll never take me alive!
Okay, I am at full candy corn right now.
Lois then drops the bombshell that they're hemorrhaging money and on the brink of losing the farm. In a decision that can only be described as tragically misguided, Lois agrees to help Peter with a meth operation to rescue their finances.
All right, Peter, we can make one mess, and that's it. And it's only because I don't see any other way out of this.
The farm quickly descends into a meth lab nightmare, with the Griffins' lives spiraling out of control. The farm is overtaken by chaos, the family deteriorates into a sorry state, and Quahog is soon flooded with drugs, making crime soar to new heights.
We now go live to Asian correspondent Trisha Takanawa.
Oh, meth is fine, everything's fine, go back to your own business.
Thanks, Trisha. She's doing fun things for me for money.
Lois, witnessing the wreckage she's helped create, is understandably distraught, but the damage is done. The Griffins' attempts to salvage their lives from the meth disaster are futile, as their involvement only deepens Quahog's drug crisis. Their return to their original home, which they managed to repurchase after property values plunge, starkly highlights the ruin Lois's decisions have wrought. The entire episode serves as a grim testament to her disastrous judgment. Even the arrival of Jodie Sweetin, seeking drugs, showcases the extent of the Griffin family's downfall, all stemming from Lois's poor choices.
Hey, are you guys in there? Peter, I need a taste. Peter, come on. I've got Maureen McCormick with me. She'll let you finish anywhere.
Her inability to foresee the ramifications of her actions transforms the Griffin household into a symbol of misfortune. In this unfortunate tale, Lois Griffin is the epitome of tragic misjudgment, leaving a wake of chaos and ruin in her path. Her obsession with Customer of the Week. Lois drags herself through the drudgery of daily life, finding a rare flicker of joy at her local coffee shop. Here she learns of the Customer of the Week award, a mere trinket, yet one she becomes obsessively fixated on. Week after week, she's cruelly overlooked, each snub more galling than the last.
Hey, Bon, Wednesday Wisdom's live!
Is it good?
No, it's great!
Determined to clinch this petty prize, she embarks on a series of increasingly extravagant and absurd antics, yet her name remains a glaring absence. Venting her frustrations to her family, she's met with Chris's wickedly clever suggestion: why not save one of the staff members? Thus, Lois, ever the schemer, hatches a devilish plan. Discovering that a barista has a deadly peanut allergy, she loads her car with peanuts, reveling in the malicious anticipation of her triumph.
Okay, I'll just pour some of these Planters peanuts into Lisa's car. The official peanut of poisoning people with allergies.
Her grand scheme, however, ignites in a spectacular crash, leaving her plan reduced to smoldering wreckage. When the barista's mother informs her of the impending scrutiny from security cameras, Lois frantically races to the shop, only to find her sinister plot has already been exposed. In a fit of desperate brilliance, Lois seizes the barista and, with a chilling air of faux benevolence, promises to care for his precious cat.
Now, a bad person would say, who cares here? But since I am a good person, I will take care of your cat. Now open your mouth, I'm gonna stuff my son's baseball sock in it.
Upon invading his apartment, she meets his two roommates. Suspicious of her presence, they are soon bound and gagged, a testament to her ruthless resolve. As she prepares a lavish dinner for the barista's grandmother, her demeanor remains chillingly composed, even as news reports announce the recovery of her hostages and the police close in.
Lois?
I'm just finishing the dishes. I'm a good person, Joe.
Sometimes good people do bad things, Lois.
After 6 months of confinement, Lois emerges, determined to savor her freedom with a stop at a different coffee shop. She exudes false charm as she interacts with the barista, leaving behind a tip worthy of royalty. Yet, when the barista fails to recognize her generosity with the appropriate reverence, Lois's simmering rage boils over.
Oh, you could have said thank you. Don't see a lot of $5 bills in there. I must be a pretty good person to give a 5.
Prick up your ears in Season 5, Episode 6. So picture this. Mayor West goes totally bananas and shatters a window at an adult video store with a cat launcher because he got the wrong pizza toppings. Meanwhile, Chris and his buddies snag some videos and watch a hilariously nonsensical porn flick. Enter Lois, who catches them in the act and decides that a sex ed class is just what the kids need, because why not?
Without sex ed, kids can wind up sexually confused. Just look at Michael Jackson.
The kid in me likes the frosted side, but the grown-up in me likes the kid in me.
Lois jumps headfirst into teaching, but her version of sex ed is a complete train wreck. Instead of giving the kids solid advice, she fumbles around while Peter tries to add his own wild opinion.
I'm Mrs. Griffin, your new sex ed teacher. Now, you've probably heard all those rumors that condoms make sex less pleasurable. While that is a fact, they also make sex safer.
Naturally, the parents go ballistic when they hear Lois is teaching about safe premarital sex instead of the old just say no mantra. So she gets fired and banned from the school. Classic Lois.
Look, Principal Shepard, I know my husband acted inappropriately.
Oh, it's not because of your husband. It's because you're teaching those kids about condoms.
Then, Reverend Kirkwood swoops in, preaching abstinence with some seriously ridiculous scare tactics.
Sex is fun, but you can't have it before you're married, even if you use a condom. Because not only do condoms fail 100% of the time, they're also majorly unsafe.
You know it's bad when Meg, of all people, falls for it and starts dating a guy named Doug. Peter, influenced by Meg's nonsense, starts rocking a chastity belt like it's a fashion statement, convinced he needs to protect himself from Lois's dangerous influence. The best part, Lois walks in on Meg and Doug engaging in this bizarre trend called ear sex, which they think is safe because it doesn't count in the eyes of the Lord.
Oh my God! You kids were doing it in the ear!
Hey, my sandwich tastes funny. Is there something wrong with the Smuckers?
Yeah, it's been on my crotch.
When Peter tries to pull a similar stunt with Lois, she goes absolutely off the rails. Like, what even? Then, in a fit of desperation, Lois crashes a school assembly and shoves Reverend Kirkwood off stage, telling the kids that it's perfectly fine to have premarital sex as long as they use protection. Talk about mixed messages. Poor Doug ends up breaking up with Meg after discovering her naked antics, and she's livid, blaming Lois for ruining her love life.
Does this mean I'll see you naked?
Yeah.
Oh boy, I can't wait!
I'm sorry Doug dumped you, honey.
It's all your fault!
Meanwhile, Stewie is obsessed with catching the Tooth Fairy, unaware she's just a myth. He concocts this wild plan involving Herbert's false teeth, proving that with Lois around, chaos is the name of the game. In the end, Lois's reckless antics leave everyone in a mess, proving once again that her ideas are like a train wreck. You can't look away, but you definitely don't want to be part of it. Overall, Lois is a master of selfishness and manipulation, always prioritizing her own wants at the expense of others. She shows a complete disregard for the feelings of those around her, making choices that inevitably harm her loved ones. Her refusal to take responsibility for her actions only exacerbates the damage she causes, leaving a wake of broken trust and resentment. It's infuriating to witness her repeat the same destructive behaviors, seemingly oblivious to the pain she inflicts on everyone in her path. Her intention with Justin Bieber in Season 11, Episode 6. Alright folks, here's the deal. Lois is not exactly thrilled about her birthday, because birthdays are just another reminder of how close she is to getting that AARP card. Brian, being the ever so helpful pup, thinks, hey, let's throw a surprise party, because clearly nothing says I care like a surprise party where everyone knows you're secretly dreading the whole thing. Peter, in his infinite wisdom, decides to serenade Lois with a poem. And this isn't a roses are red kind of deal. Nope, it's more of a life is a cruel joke kind of poem that really gets under Lois's skin.
You may not be the young filly you were when I met you, but you're still my reliable old plow horse who's there each day to pull the plow, to help around the barn, and let the husband horse slap a batch at her now and then.
So Lois goes full midlife crisis mode. We're talking new hair, a makeover, and shopping sprees that could bankrupt a small nation. She's out there living her best teen life, much to Peter's bewilderment.
Come on, dudes! Who wants to hop in my wheels and head to the beach for some ultimate frisbee?
Yeah, Sheldon, I'm with you.
Peter's got mixed feelings about Lois's new look. On one hand, she's hotter than a summer day in Texas. On the other hand, she's acting like she just walked out of a music video. When the party scene gets too much, Peter's energy tanks faster than a lead balloon, and Lois decides to hit the town with a bunch of younger gals. Because who doesn't love a little buy one, get one free youth action?
Look, Peter, you do what you want to do, but I'm going to that party. My life isn't over. It's just beginning. So if you don't want to run with the wild horses, then go back to the barn and go to bed.
Back at home, Brian's like, dude, your poem is basically the spark that started this whole circus. And sure enough, on TV, Lois is hanging out with Justin Bieber's crew. Lois sneaks into a Bieber concert, thinking she's gonna charm her way into his heart.
Okay, I'm Stifler's mom.
Still, no idea.
Okay, just get your pants off, hon.
Stop right there.
But Peter bursts in like a tornado of awkwardness and beats up Bieber, because why not? Peter tells Lois to come home and start acting her age. Lois, in classic Lois fashion, throws his own words back at him. Peter has a big ol' oops moment and admits he loves Lois just the way she is. But just when you think it's all sorted, Bieber's called back on stage and Peter's stuck impersonating him. Conway Bieber, y'all. It's a thing now. Bullying Joyce in Season 9, Episode 9. Ah, how delightful. Another episode of reveling in human frailties. Enter the newest addition to the Quahog 5 News team, the treacherous Joyce Kinney, when Lois, ever so naive, befriends this viper in disguise after a seemingly innocent encounter at the store. She foolishly confides her deepest, darkest secret. Yes, Lois once starred in a most scandalous adult film during her misguided college years.
When I was in college, I was in an adult film.
Oh my God, you did a porno?
Shh, please do not say a word to anybody.
But behold the true horror. Joyce, with a gleeful malice worthy of a true villain, unveils this secret to the entire town with a wicked grin. Little does Lois realize, the evil lurking in Joyce's heart has roots in their shared past. For Joyce, once a mere shadow of her former self, endured Lois's cruelty in high school, an era of torment when Lois maliciously humiliated her, reducing Joyce to mere fodder for mockery.
I was standing in front of the entire school with my pants around my ankles and a hot dog in my mouth.
While it is indeed a grave injustice for Lois's private past to be thrust into the public eye, let us not forget the origin of this vendetta. Lois's ruthlessness, her wicked deeds of the past, set the stage for this merciless retribution. Such cruelty was abhorrent then, as it is now, proving once more that cruelty begets cruelty, no matter how it's disguised. Become a terrible mayor in Season 5, Episode 17. Alright, strap in and grab your popcorn, cause we're diving into this hot mess of a tale. So the Griffin crew decides to hit up Quagmire's cabin by Lake Quahog for some R&R, but instead of splashing around in crystal clear water, they find out it's more of a toxic waste dump. Yup, their lake vacation turns into a freak show with their hair falling out like bad sequels.
Hey, you've got a tattoo. No, I don't.
Is that Ziggy?
No.
You have a Ziggy tattoo?
Oh, jeez.
Why do you have a Ziggy tattoo?
I just used to think he was kind of funny. We should get to the hospital.
So now they're rocking powdered wigs until they can grow back their glorious locks. Lois gets madder than a cat in a room full of rocking chairs and marches straight to Mayor Adam West. Turns out West's got a dirty little secret. He greenlit the toxic dumping in exchange for some fancy hair oil.
And in return, I get free oil for my hair.
Hey, baby.
Want to take a gander at some Adam West penis?
Lois, now totally ticked off, decides to give the mayoral race a whirl. Peter and his buddies jump on the bandwagon because, hey, if Lois becomes mayor, they'll get away with pretty much anything, like stealing cookies from the cookie jar, but on a grand scale.
I mean, Lois is my wife, and if she's the mayor, we can pretty much do whatever the hell we want.
But things get stickier than a 3-day-old burrito when Lois's campaign flops. West, that sly fox, plays the political game like a pro, dropping glittery fluff and dodging questions with the grace of a stripper avoiding a wardrobe malfunction. Lois tries to fight back with simple answers, but her tactics are as cringeworthy as a karaoke version of Free Bird, with her throwing in buzzwords like Jesus and 9/11ths in totally unrelated ways. Somehow this crazy ride gets her the win.
Mrs. Griffin, what about our traffic problem?
9, 11.
Once Lois is in the hot seat, she tries to raise taxes, but when that crashes harder than a soap opera romance, she resorts to scaring people into coughing up dough to clean the lake.
Hitler, is plotting with the Legion of Doom to assassinate Jesus, using the lake as a bait.
The lake gets shiny again, but Lois gets a little too into the money thing. She swipes $600 for a new purse, leaving Brian more disappointed than a kid who got socks for Christmas. Peter, now living the high life as the mayor's hubby, reroutes the town's power grid to resurrect Jim Varney. Yeah, that's right, Ernest is back, yammering on about Vern like a broken record. But when Peter realizes he actually wanted John Belushi, things get messy. Peter tries to off Varney with a gun, but Varney flips the script and Peter ends up sprinting away like a scared schoolboy.
He got the shotgun, Brian. Don't ask me how he did it, but Jim Varney got the shotgun. Run for your life! What? Run!
Lois then gets a hankering for a $4,300 fur coat, and Bob Grossbeard, the local oil baron, offers to buy it for her if she lets him dump more sludge into the lake. Lois, greedier than a raccoon in a garbage can, accepts.
I want the coat.
Excellent. Then we have a deal.
But when the new pipe opens, she has an epiphany and slams the valve shut. She quits as mayor, admitting she's become the very monster she wanted to fight. Causing outbreak in season 15, episode 6. Oh darlings, settle in for a tale where irresponsibility takes center stage, and the Griffin family waltzes through chaos with all the grace of a bull in a china shop. It all kicks off when a bat, yes, a flapping, squeaking menace invades the Griffin household. Peter's slapstick attempts to evict the creature end with Stewie getting hurt, and off they go to the hospital. There, Stewie's presented with the option of vaccinations. But oh, Lois, in her infinite wisdom and unshakable paranoia, takes one look at the list of potential side effects and nearly has a meltdown.
Possible side effects: fever, severe allergic reaction, muscle and joint pain. Wait, and this can't be right. They actually put some of the disease in the shot?
Her brilliant decision-making is fueled by a cesspool of internet horror stories, leading her to flat-out refuse vaccinations for Stewie. And wouldn't you know it, Peter, ever the spineless sidekick goes along with this reckless decision, despite Brian's more sensible advice.
You realize the vast majority of people think you're wrong.
Well, maybe that's the problem. We just gotta change their minds. We're getting this town to change its mind about vaccination.
Lois's decision to skip the vaccines leads to a ludicrous anti-vaccination rally where they're left to fester alone in their misguided crusade as Stewie tries to protect himself from germs. Thanks to Brian's warnings, Peter's harebrained antics have sparked a surge in parents refusing to vaccinate their kids. The result? An outbreak of measles at Stewie's daycare, and the entire town gets slapped with a quarantine. All this thanks to Lois's blatant irresponsibility.
Oh, this is awful. It's all our fault.
Brian, basking in the glory of having been right all along, watches as Lois undergoes a sudden change of heart, finally wanting to get Stewie vaccinated. But of course, Peter has already made sure all the vaccines in town have mysteriously disappeared.
All right, what else did I have to do today? Ah, yes, overdose in my apartment. I better get home.
As Peter himself falls ill, panic sets in as they scramble to keep Stewie safe. In a melodramatic twist, Stewie pretends Rupert is sick and makes a hasty exit from the house. Amidst the chaos, Stewie encounters a future version of himself, who's there not to warn him, but to steal glue for a high.
Give me the glue. Ugh. Stewie, listen to me. Never ever do this great thing I love.
Attempting to evade the police by swinging beneath a bridge, Stewie finds himself in a precarious situation when an upside-down train causes him to drop his grip. Fortunately, the ever-aloof Sean Penn arrives to save him. Though Lois is less than thrilled with Penn's liberal Hollywood tendencies, he's their saving grace, bringing much-needed vaccines to the town.
You saved my baby. Thank you so much. Oh, Sean Penn. You're the one who played that homosexual.
As the Griffins breathe a sigh of relief and the town starts to recover, the Bat, never one to miss out on a final jab, returns to deliver one last piece of retribution against Peter. And there you have it, dear ones. A masterclass in irresponsibility where Lois Griffin's disastrous choices lead to mayhem, disease, and a town brought to its knees. The lesson here? Reckless decisions have consequences, ones that can make your life a whole lot more complicated. Turn Peter and Chris against each other in season 21, episode 9. Alright, listen up, because here comes the straight-shooting, no-nonsense rundown of Lois Griffin's utterly ridiculous and self-serving antics. So the Griffin family hits up the Quahog Fall Festival for a bit of family fun. Peter and Chris decide to team up for the Generation Gap contest. And let me tell you, it's a train wreck of epic proportions. Round after round, their team doesn't score a single point.
Who is your child's favorite singer? The Price is Right yodeler.
What? No, I said Adele.
Judges?
Lois is mortified, and in a fit of absolute brilliance, she orders Peter to actually bond with his son. Surprise, surprise. Peter and Chris quickly find common ground in their mutual disdain for Lois's controlling ways. They even discover a shared talent for mocking her. How charming.
Peter, don't use my hairdryer to dry your anus.
Yeah, or Chris, stop freezing bees until they fall asleep and gluing little leashes on them.
The dynamic duo then decides to have some fun by turning the household into their personal playground. They start out voting Lois 2-1 on every little decision, relishing every opportunity to undermine her. The household has become a battleground, all because Lois can't handle being upstaged in her own domain. Her brilliant strategy drive a wedge between Peter and Chris to regain control. She cooks up fake essays and phony voicemails, hoping to stir up a family feud.
Hey, know what could be fun? If we both got bowl haircuts like, oh, hang on, estrogen smoothie, please. Sorry, I'm busy tricking my husband.
But hold the phone, Peter and Chris aren't falling for her childish games. They catch on fast and decide it's payback time. Their master plan threatened to destroy Lois's precious piano. When Lois finally admits that her entire scheme was just a pathetic attempt to deal with her bruised ego.
I guess at first I felt bad you were making fun of me, and then later I resented that you removed me entirely from any family decision making. But what I did was awful.
Peter decides to exact a little revenge of his own. He demands that Lois get a Mark Davis haircut if she wants his forgiveness. Yeah, that's right, he's making her suffer for her manipulative ways, and she's none too pleased about it.
I hate you for this, Peter.
I know. Now let's go upstairs and have idiot sex.
Meanwhile, over at the festival, Brian's busy getting tangled up with a carny named Amber. They hit it off in the most carnal way possible, and Brian's all set to enjoy a few days of hot, fleeting sex before she moves on with the carnival. But when Amber decides she's had enough and breaks things off, Brian's ego takes a hit. He vows to make her regret the breakup, even though Stewie's trying to knock some sense into him. Brian's plan to get revenge almost works until Amber's nasty uncle threatens him into staying. What a charming family. And just when Brian thinks he's got the upper hand, he comes home to find himself flattened by Lois's raised piano, a fitting end to his fiasco of a relationship. So there you have it, a family feud fueled by Lois's sheer incompetence and manipulative tactics. Peter and Chris turning against each other with the grace of a WWE tag team match, and Brian's attempts at revenge ending in a grand piano catastrophe. What a show, right? Lois gets hooked on Brian's painkillers in season 20, episode 16. With the kids back in school and Lois left to her own devices, she finds herself sinking into the abyss of boredom, courtesy of Netflix. Enter Joe, who, inspired by his own Netflix binge, decides to drop by for a little check-in. But wait, Brian mistakes Joe for a delivery guy, and in classic Brian fashion, he charges the door like he's auditioning for a role in a slapstick comedy. He ends up tumbling down the stairs in a spectacularly painful fashion.
Oh, crap! I can't remember if doggy arms are supposed to bend that way.
Oh!
Okay, Bonnie might know if doggy arms are supposed to bend that way.
Oh!
Bored and searching for thrills, Lois swipes one of Brian's painkillers and hits the jackpot of euphoria. Yep, she's floating on cloud 9, but it's short-lived because, surprise, surprise, Brian runs out of pills. Desperate times call for desperate measures, so Lois decides to score some drugs at the local high school. But of course, she finds out that none of the kids are dealing, because, you know, high school kids have better things to do than sell pills.
We're picking up trash and organizing a Black Lives Matter rally.
Ah, how could you be so selfish?
Hey, Daddy-O's.
They don't have drugs.
Later, alligators.
Back at home, Lois plops Stewie in the bathtub like he's a rubber ducky and starts tearing the place apart looking for more pills. She finally finds one lonely pill, only to drop it into the toilet. Naturally, she tries to fish it out by shoving Stewie down the toilet.
Ah, damn you!
Come on, you just touched it!
Brilliant, right? Just as Brian walks in and rescues Stewie, he gives Lois a little surprise. There's another pill in his crate, so he tricks her into crawling into the crate for it and locks her in. Just the sort of thing a loving husband would do, right?
Stewie. Stewie? 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 Stew. 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 Stewie?
Lois then embarks on a nightmarish quest to buy more pills, only to find that all her coupons have mysteriously expired, because apparently even drug coupons have a short shelf life. When she finally snaps back to reality, she's still stuck in the crate, and the drugs have worn off. So what's left for our dear Lois? She settles for repeatedly playing the end of Crimson and Clover on loop, which sounds just as groovy as if she were still on the stuff. Faked her blindness after she recovered Season 20, Episode 1. Welcome to another delightful escapade of the Griffin household, where calamity and hubris are in perfect harmony. Picture this: Lois, ever the paragon of grace, drops little Stewie off at preschool, only to accidentally deliver a jarring blow to his playmate Doug.
It's Doug! Nice hit, bitch! Oh, and Elsa underwear. This day just keeps getting better.
A minor hiccup, really, but it sets the stage for Lois's next grand disaster. As if that wasn't enough, Lois discovers she's in dire need of LASIK surgery. After the procedure, however, she's met with the delightful twist of being utterly blind. Quite the poetic irony, wouldn't you agree?
I'm blind!
What do you mean you're blind? You can't see me right now?
No!
But you can still see, like, the stove and laundry, right?
In her newly acquired state of darkness, Meg, the ever-hopeful soul, persuades her to create a video to articulate her inner turmoil. This masterpiece of emotional outpouring becomes a veritable sensation. And what does our enterprising Lois do? She transmutes this newfound fame into a marketing marvel under the moniker ICU.
ICU has exploded. There's ICU fashion, ICU skincare, ICU health. It is a gold mine.
Despite Meg's protests that her mother is exploiting the situation beyond its intended scope, Lois revels in her cunning. But lo and behold, as the fates would have it, Lois awakens one fateful morning with her sight miraculously restored. Rather than embrace this gift, she opts to conceal her regained vision to safeguard her precious marketing empire.
Eminenema. It promises to clear out 8 miles of mom's spaghetti. It goes in slim clear and comes out slim shady. Thank you, I'm blind.
Yet Meg's astute observations lead her to notice Lois's newfound ease in navigating stairs, a clear sign of sight restored. Before Meg can confront her, the opportunity of a lifetime arises. Lois is offered a coveted slot on a prestigious talk show. Her ruse is nearly undone when she can discern the colors of a dress with unerring precision. The piece de resistance occurs on live television when Lois inadvertently reveals her sight by identifying Reese Witherspoon holding a large check for her charity. And so, the grand punishment for her deceitful machinations? Lois is sentenced to appear on a daytime courtroom drama, presided over by none other than Cleveland Brown. A fittingly humorous end to her audacious charade, wouldn't you say?
I'll find you guilty, and I'll sentence you to pay your roommate back for his dog food. Or whatever dumb this one's about.
Thus concludes another act in the farcical opera of Lois Griffin, a tale of deception, ambition, and the inevitable retribution that accompanies such folly. Cheated with Joe and more in Season 21, Episode 3. So Lois, in a stroke of absolute genius, or utter recklessness, decides it's a great idea for Stewie to play with a car made just for his size. Peter's whining for a replacement gift, and Carter, ever the master of dodging, smartly avoids dealing with Peter's demands. Meanwhile, Stewie is thrilled to cruise around in his hot stew car, living it up like he's king of the road. Enter Joe, who rolls in while Lois is changing in the restroom. Classic Lois move. She's blissfully unaware of the mortified Joe, who catches a glimpse and bolts in embarrassment.
Ah, Joe, I'm in here!
Sorry, I didn't realize. I'm sorry, I'm leaving!
Back at home, Bonnie can't stop gushing about Joe's performance in bed, revealing that Lois was the fantasy fueling Joe's newfound bedroom prowess. Talk about a blow to Lois's ego, but you know she'll never take responsibility for it. Meanwhile, Stewie is flaunting his new ride and blabbing Brian's ear off about every detail, while Lois is outside doing her best impression of Cinderella, cleaning a bunch of shoes. She spots Joe watching her from his window and decides to crank up the sleaze factor. She rolls up her shirt and pants to give Joe an eyeful, thinking she's helping spice up Joe and Bonnie's marriage.
Hey, Bon, you busy?
Should I get the pump?
No need. Let's do this.
And here's the kicker. She tries to use the same seductive tricks on Peter, who's so indifferent he might as well be asleep. Unsurprisingly, Peter's not falling for her nonsense, leaving Lois sulking like a spoiled child. Stewie, meanwhile, has to rescue a drunk Brian from a bar. Brian, in his inebriated glory, blesses Stewie's new car with a vomit baptism, and even decorates Stewie's face for good measure, because of course Lois's choice in friends is as impeccable as her choices in life. Quagmire, always eager to stir the pot, sees Lois giving Joe a show and immediately runs to tattle on her to Peter. Peter, enraged and trying to channel his inner macho man, goes to Joe and throws a punch. As if things weren't already a hot mess, Peter and Lois have a full-blown argument because nothing says healthy relationship like a fight after being publicly humiliated. Peter's revenge, strutting around in nothing but tiny denim shorts while chopping wood, hoping to catch the eye of some other woman. Classic Peter move.
That's right, ladies. I'll be here all morning, turning small pieces of wood into even smaller pieces of wood for no reason.
Stewie, meanwhile, is still scrubbing the puke off his car, making zero progress. Lois tries again to seduce Joe in a provocative getup, but Joe's too much of a gentleman to fall for her nonsense. He thanks her for the gesture, probably wondering why she's so keen on embarrassing herself.
Lois, you can stop with the phony excuses. I know why you've been doing what you're doing, and I think it's better if you stop.
Abandon Meg in Season 11, Episode 2. The quaint tradition of parents delightfully escorting their children to the fire station. A charming ritual where young ones marvel at the gleaming trucks and absorb the lofty ideals of fire safety. As the Griffin family embarks upon this very outing with young Stewie, they indulge in a nostalgic reverie, reminiscing about their inaugural visit with dear Meg. And lo, we are transported to a bygone era through the magic of flashback, a spectacle where a considerably younger Peter and Lois, in their boundless wisdom, present Meg to the fire station. Picture it, they approach the station with all the grace of mischievous sprites, depositing the innocent Meg upon the grimy doorstep only to make a hasty retreat. What became of that hapless scene, you may wonder? The details are shrouded in mystery, yet the consequences of that fateful day remain all too clear as Meg persists, rather like a persistent thorn, as the endearing bane of their existence. The years have done little to diminish the impact of their ill-considered jest, leaving them to contend with the delightful chaos that Meg has brought into their lives. Screened her adult film in church in Season 9, Episode 9. After the despicable exposure of her involvement in an adult film, the Griffins are cast out from their church, a rightful consequence for their abhorrent behavior.
But I love the church. It's an important part of my life.
Maybe you should have thought of that before you made a porn.
The scandal engulfs Lois, plunging her into a state of wretched depression. Brian, in his feeble attempt at wisdom, suggests she confront her egregious errors directly.
You remember a few years back, people used to make all those jokes about how Ryan Seacrest was gay? And then he started making those jokes himself, and now nobody makes those jokes anymore.
In a move that defies all decency, Lois chooses to screen her vile film within the very sanctuary of the church, a place that should have been shielded from such corruption. This act, an insult to the sanctity of the house of worship, is a travesty of the highest order. It is a profound desecration of the holy space, demonstrating her utter disregard for the gravity of her actions.
I know I'm a man of God, but that is hot.
Yet, in a grotesque twist of fate, the church, blinded by misguided leniency, readmits the Griffins after their film receives some absurdly favorable reviews. This farcical turn of events reveals a most disturbing truth. Lois and her family remain impervious to the lessons their disgrace should have imparted. They continue in their moral blindness, their egregious actions met with undeserved forgiveness, unshaken and unrepentant.